What it do, YouTube? It's your boy Mike from NYC, and we back with another reaction today. We're watching Jordan Peterson on resolving conflict and how to have productive arguments. I really wanted to check this out. It's been something I've been thinking about. I guess I'll get into it more after the video, but something I've been thinking about, and I wanted to watch this video, so I figured why not react to it. You know what I'm saying? So without any further ado, let's get it popping.
You know, like if I've learned that if I'm embroiled in a dispute with my wife, you know, and there's reasons for disputes. You have complicated problems to solve, and you're different. So that's why there are disputes, apart from your own stupidity and malevolence and all of that. But there are real reasons to have disputes. So maybe you're in a dispute and you can't get out of it, and you're trying to show you're right, and it's not going anywhere. And you think, okay, we better break apart because it's going sideways. If you go into a room and you sit again on the edge of your bed or a chair and you think, okay, probably I've done something stupid to contribute to this in some way. What might it have been? And if you ask like you want the answer, you'll get the answer. And it won't be an answer you like, and it won't be something you like to admit. You might think, well, it's only 5% my fault still. It's like, yeah, okay, but at least it's 5%. Then you can go back to your wife and you could say, here's the stupid thing I've done to contribute to this. And I figured it out, and I'll try not to do it again. And, you know, sorry, I'm so dumb.
Yeah.
And maybe if she's done the same thing, she can tell you the same thing. And then maybe now you're both like humbled a bit in the proper way. You can actually have a discussion that's aimed at solving the problem instead of attaining victory.
Yeah. Why do we have to be right? Like I don't have to be, I hope to not have to be right a lot of times. I'm happy to be wrong. Like there's this thing out there these days that everyone, they just have to be right. There's no discussion anymore.
Better to learn something than to be right, unless you're already right enough. And if you think you're right enough, well, look, if your life is perfect and everything's exactly the way you want it to be, you're right enough, man. Good for you. But I haven't met anybody like that yet. And
especially when you are commingling with others, that's when you have to, you know, sometimes you have to not be right just for everybody to be okay.
One thing that's worth thinking about, and I outlined this a fair bit in this book, 12 Rules for Life, is like, do you want to make friends with what you know, or do you want to make friends with what you don't know? And and because it's a good question. It's like, well, what I know, that's all secure, and it's
easy. That's safe.
It's easy, and it's fortified, and it's worked. It's like, yeah, fine, but it's insufficient, or unless everything's perfect, which it isn't. So it's insufficient. It's like, okay, well, if you make friends with what you don't know, and then you have a discussion with someone, and they tell you something you don't know, then you have the opportunity to be a little bit smarter. And if you're trying to avoid hell, let's say, it's useful to be a little bit smarter, a little wiser. And so even if you're having an acrimonious argument with someone, you know, maybe you can sift a little bit of wheat from the chaff, and you can think, yeah, well, most of what you're saying, it's nonsense. But, you know, that one point you made there, it's like, that's a point. You made a point. It pointed me somewhere, maybe somewhere slightly more valuable. I learned something. It's also why it's so useful to talk to people that don't agree with you. It's like, of course they're wrong. They don't agree with you. But, well, but maybe you're wrong about something. And so
people want to feel just appreciated, even if you don't agree with them. Sometimes it's at least appreciating that they are presenting.
You're just listening.
Yes.
Well, Carl Rogers had he's a psychotherapist. He had a real useful piece of advice about that. It's one of the rare pieces of advice that I think actually work in psychotherapy, because mostly that's about helping people discover what they need to do. They have to discover it. You facilitate that.
Right.
Like Rogers said, look, if you're having an argument with someone, and this really works if it's someone close to you. It's like you're having this bitter argument. It's like, here's the rule. You have your say, then I am going to say what you told me. But you have to agree that I got it right. Right. And then the reverse. I get to have my piece, and then you get to say what I said. You don't have to agree. That's not the point. But you have to formulate my argument back to me in a manner that I agree with. And so you're going to reduce it to the gist. It means you're not going to treat me like an imbecile or a straw man.
Right.
And one of the things Rogers pointed out is if you do that, the arguments tend to become productive. So that's a lovely technique. It really does work.
I think for me, it's hard sometimes because I feel like I guess not everything can be objective. I guess is something I need to understand and to think about in a different way. But it's hard for me to like accept somebody's, you know, stance on something if it's just based on like how they feel. If they're not really giving me anything of substance that I can really wrap my head around or wrap my finger around. you know? I think that's really the more difficult part for me. Really just trying to understand, like, okay, like, I hear what you're saying, but you're not giving me any reason. Like, so if I can feel something, right? And I can understand that that's just something that I feel, right? And if I can't, if I can't dictate it in a way that is objective to some degree, right? Even relating it to basketball, right? If I say Paul George is my favorite player, if I can at least admit there's no, like, if somebody asks me why, well, you know, Paul George, just the way he plays, he's silky, he's smooth, he's super versatile. Those are my reasons for saying that, you know, well, those are the reasons that I like Paul George, right? But if I say Paul George is the best player in the league, and somebody's like, well, okay, well, why do you feel that way? Give me some reasons. Like, I don't know, bro. He's just nice. Like, he's just silky. Like, he could do, like, it's like, all right, but you're not really giving me anything of substance to say why he's better than, like, what is he the best at? Why is he the best? Or why is it this? Or why is it that? You're not giving me much of anything to really combat with, you know what I mean? So I could if I think about it, I say, yeah, Paul George is my favorite player. And I'm like, yeah, is Paul George the best player in the league? Probably not. Like, I don't have any reason. Like, I don't even think he is the best player. It's just the person that I have the most favoritism towards, you know? So I think when I argue with people about things, a lot of the times it's just I feel, and it's like, I can't go back and forth with you or have a productive discussion on something that you just feel like. And I'm using basketball just like a easy way for me to, like, express, like, some type of or to give some type of analogy, right? But, you know, on a more, like, serious scale, you know, like, so we both feel away. I feel something, you feel something. We have a disagreement, and I think it's rooted, it might be rooted in feel, right? But if I feel like, okay, listen, hey, I need you to do something on this day, by this day, right? So let's say it's Friday. Listen, I need you to do this by Tuesday, right? I said, okay, got you. And you're upset when I don't do it by Monday, and you just feel like I should. Well, I felt like you should have, and I felt like you should have, and it to me, it doesn't make, there's nothing I can't read minds. There's no way for me to compete with that type of, you know, like, I felt like, you know, maybe I wanted to do it by Thursday. I didn't even feel like doing it by Tuesday. This is how I feel. But I understand that how I feel isn't reality. How I feel, or feelings aren't factual. Feelings are deceitful, right? Just because you feel something. So I think that's the lens that I take it from.
You're recognizing what they're saying.
You're at least listening. And the thing too is, if you listen to someone, sometimes if you listen to someone, they discover the limits of their own argument. They think, oh, so they lay it out and they think, oh, well, I'm really not as mad about that as I thought. Or
hold on, let me go, because he might have spit a gem right quick. He might have just spit a gem. He might have just
technique. It really does work.
Because immediately you're recognizing what they're saying.
You're at least listening. And the thing too is, if you listen to someone, sometimes if you listen to someone, they discover the limits of their own argument. They think, oh, so they lay it out and they think, oh, well, I'm really not as mad about that as I thought. Or, oh, that isn't exactly what I meant. Or maybe there's something else going on here that I didn't understand. Like, if you let them lay out the whole thing and you just shut up while they stumble around, then sometimes they stumble somewhere slightly more productive, and that's also useful. That's also, I think this is something that happens between men and women a lot. So a woman will be upset about something, and she'll come and tell her husband about it, and he'll try to solve the problem. It's like, well, wait a second. Now, and you think, well, the problem needs to be solved, so why isn't that okay for her? And the answer is, she hasn't fully formulated the problem. So you have to wait.
Oh, that's facts. That's true though, because like in relation to what you're saying, like, we'll be mad about something, and then like what expressing she'll be mad about. I'm like, yo, I ain't gonna lie, what you're saying you're mad about does not even make any sense. But then we actually get to the root, and it's like, oh, like, I'm digging deep. I'm like, all right, that don't make sense. And I'm digging deep. I'm like, okay, is this the, like, you know what? Actually, that is the. I'm like, okay. See, if I'd have knew that going into, like, I mean, there's been a lot of growth from 18, 19 to 21. Like, there's a lot more that I know. There's a lot more that I've experienced with different people and different things. So I understand, and coming from somebody who's a very analytical, objective person, it is extremely difficult and almost impossible seeming to just be able to understand somebody who runs off of emotion, or isn't necessarily objective, or doesn't really understand how to explain things to you in a way. I feel like that's something that I really, really take pride in, is being able to dissect something that I'm trying to get my point across, being able to dissect it to, even if the person doesn't agree. Agreement is not something that I seek. I just want somebody to see where I'm coming from, right? So no matter what I'm arguing about, what I'm arguing for, you know what I mean? That's why I feel like it's best to use the best way to explain something a lot of the time is to use analogies, you know, which is why I feel like that's really my lane. That's what I really like to do in terms of explaining things, like, you know. But yeah, that is true, man. So it's just like, once you learn these little tricks on how to deal with people that aren't like you, you know what I mean? Just different from you, right? Because it's very different.
Well, she stumbles around. Not that women do that any more than men. That's not my point. Well, she stumbles around and says, well, here's why I think I'm upset. Here's one possibility. Here's another possibility. Here's another possibility. You might have to listen to 10 possibilities before the actual problem emerges. Because it's not like people always know why they're upset.
Right. Sometimes especially if they're just upset at the moment.
Yeah. And then maybe something triggered it at work yesterday. And they you know, their boss said something rude and they've been kind of stewing on that all day, and that's made them irritable. And then they snap at something trivial. You think, well, what the hell's wrong with you? The person says, well, here's what it is. And you listen and you think, well, and then they stumble around and they think, oh, well, there's something else that's still bothering me. And like, it takes a bunch of digging to get to the bottom. So you have to shut up and let that happen. And then maybe you can think, okay, how can we solve this problem? But if you jump in there too early, you circumvent the process of exploration. You can't solve a problem unless you formulate.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Just things that I'm trying to learn, dealing with humans, bruh. Dealing with humans is just pretty, like, you know, is just different. You know, obviously I may think my way of doing things may be better. I may think that, you know, being able, or maybe it's, I don't know, you know, honestly don't know. You know, maybe being, yeah, but I don't want to sound like I'm being sarcastic or anything like that. But, you know, maybe there's something I need to, or maybe there's something that I can do better. Maybe it may not necessarily be my responsibility to dig for somebody, or to reach for somebody, or to try to pull out of them what they should be trying to pull out of themselves. But I think it's something that I can it's something that is within my control, and it's something that I can do to contribute to whatever it is that I'm trying to contribute, whether it is understanding why somebody feels the way that they feel. You know what I mean? Because people may not always adapt to understand why they feel what they feel. You know what I mean? Or maybe they may be right in a sense and may not be able to explain it or understand it. So I don't know, honestly. It's just hard for me to, like, I don't know. It's hard for me to be upset at someone, you know, when it's hard for me to, like, because if it was to the point where it's like, you have a hard time explaining yourself, but, you know, you're not necessarily, like, upset about it. You're just like, yeah, you know, well, this is just how I feel. I don't really know how to explain it. Like, that's not really what bothers me. I think what bothers me is when you put the onus on me to accept responsibility for something that isn't my responsibility, whether it's reading minds or assuming things. When you clearly have a mouth and a brain, when you can clearly articulate things that you want yourself, and if you can't, that's something that I shouldn't be taking responsibility for. That's something that I can try to overcome, possibly, you know, and maybe just be smarter and understanding who I'm dealing with, and maybe just having more emotional intelligence. But that's not something that I feel like it bothers. It's annoying to me when somebody puts the onus on me that has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? If I said I want a red jacket and you get me a red jacket, and I'm mad because you didn't know that I meant to get me a purple jacket, man, oh man, like what is the, like, bruh, like where does the self-awareness and the accountability come in? Like at what point? Give me, I didn't get, not only did not get the jacket maybe that you didn't say you wanted, or I didn't get it from where you didn't even say you wanted it from, or you said you wanted something done at a certain time in a certain place, and then you should have known, or you should have just done this anyway. Like, at what point does the self accountability come into the play, man? So that's something that's really hard for me, man, to really, like, it's really hard for me to accept. And it's just like, sure, everybody thinks they right, but it's just like, bruh, you didn't even communicate that, bruh. So I don't know, I guess I'm done rambling. I guess it's just something that I wanted to look into a little bit more. Let me know what you think, man. Let me know what y'all think. Cause yeah, I think those are like two of my biggest pet peeves, or one of those, which is like the lack of self-awareness, and then the second one is inauthenticity. Those are like my two biggest turnoffs in a human being, like inauthenticity and lack of self-awareness. And I really try to make that a point of emphasis, to have self-awareness. I really try to, especially if somebody's giving me the luxury of telling me, like, if somebody comments on my YouTube channel, you suck. I was like, damn, that kind of hurt my, like, it might have hurt my feelings like 0.5 seconds. You know what I mean? But then I look at the video and then I think, you know what? I could have done better here. I see why I said that. Or, you know what? I think this video is fire. Let's agree to disagree. And your opinion may just be trash. But at least I'm open to looking in the mirror at myself and saying, you know what? Let's actually be objective to as much as we can about, what's taking place. Especially if you give details like, well, this, that, on any type of hate comments or anybody commenting on me in general, so yeah, definitely let me know what you think. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.